Hello everyone, welcome to another Goldfishing video. My name is Nathan and this is Salty Productions. This is the companion video to my deck tech video where I covered Adeline Resplendent Cathar. This is a mono white human tribal deck that is aiming to go wide and swing out with alpha strikes to close out the game. If you want an idea of the cards in the deck and discussion of all of the cards, then check out that link in the description below. I will have that video posted and in the end screen. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right in here. With 37 lands in the deck, we're looking to have at least 2, preferably 3 lands, and I see that we already have a pretty good opener here. We have an Ancient Tomb into Eagles of the North, along with a few lower drops here. Let's sort these by mana cost here. So Cathar Commando at 2 mana, Herald's Horn at 3, Lossernach, and then the rest of these are 4. Now, Eagles of the North I'm treating as a land here, and unfortunately Ancient Tomb is going to make us essentially the arch enemy by turn 1. So if I was running this out in a real game, I might actually mulligan this hand. However, we're going to go ahead and keep it just for purposes of testing today, especially considering we have a colorless Herald's Horn that we can cast. Without further ado, we'll draw our first card for the turn. Even better, Pearl Medallion. So the question is, when you run out an Ancient Tomb, and do you want to play the Pearl Medallion off the bat to have just one of those golden openers and embrace being arch enemy? I think in a game where I was really trying to win, I probably wouldn't run out Pearl Medallion, and instead I would cycle for Eagles of the North. And I think actually that's what we're going to do. The reason is because we actually don't have a turn 2 land in our hand, and I don't want to gamble on not being able to draw a plains on turn 2. So we're going to go ahead and cycle Eagles of the North with that Ancient Tomb mana and just put it into our hand. Go next for turn 2. Then we're going to play our plains here. So we have 3 mana that we can keep up here. And I think I really want to draw lands. Pearl Medallion is definitely wanting to be played very early. However, I'm actually going to play the Herald's Horn because we want to be able to draw past our creatures if there's a human sitting on our top deck here. So we're going to go ahead and throw that in the upper right. Then we're going to go next. And before I actually hit the next turn button, we're going to check. This is Scholar of New Horizons, which is a creature type. So we will put that into our hand and then draw our actual card for the turn. So Scholar of New Horizons is great because now we have some ramp pieces here. So what I'm going to actually do is tap Ancient Tomb and the Plains to play the Pearl Medallion, and then we can cast the Scholar of New Horizons for 1 white mana. So next turn we'll be able to tap it even though we're missing our land drop here, and we'll be able to and this is a 2/2 at the moment. So again, not drawing our third land here. This is pretty unfortunate, but we do have some solace in the fact that we have some cheap card draw with Skull Clamp. So as this turn starts, assuming that Skull Clamp would trigger Heralds of the Horn, but it would not be drawn because it's not a creature type. Okay, so this is currently a 2/2 with a counter on it, so we're going to go ahead and use its ability to tap, remove a counter from a permanent you control, and search your library for a plains card and reveal it, and we're actually going to go ahead and do that. Then unfortunately we actually probably will have to put it on a battlefield tapped because we're probably going to be short on lands compared to the rest of our opponents, and it forces us to play it tapped. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we are going to, let's see, so with Pearl Medallion and Herald's Horn, I think we can cast Cathar Commando for 1 white. That leaves us 2 white remaining, and so I think what I want to do is just cast tap our plains here. Actually, to probably cast a Soul's Attendant. The reason why is that we definitely want some early game life gain. And then we're going to use 2 more mana to play Skull Clamp and then equip it to our Scholar of New Horizons, and it will die and we will draw 2 cards. So not a bad sequencing there for turn 4. Now, ideally, I think next turn we'd like to play Adeline, so let's go ahead and go next. We have an upkeep trigger on Herald's Horn. We're going to go ahead and draw our Greymond, a Vassal Stalwart, because it's the top card of our deck, and we will draw our card for turn 5. All right. We're doing pretty good on card draw here, so we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana at our disposal, with our humans costing 2 colorless less. So the question is, do we want to play Adeline and generate 3 tokens? I think what we want to do... So Mangara, we don't need the card draw. Lossernach Captain, I think, is good a combo with Adeline. So we can play Lossernach Captain for 2 and Adeline for 2. And I think that would actually... Oh, but we do need 3 white mana to do that. If we play Adeline, we can actually clamp one of the humans to draw more cards. And because we're missing lands, I'm actually thinking that might be the way to go here. Because then we can... Well, we could either hold up mana for Teferi's Protection, although I don't think this board is worth holding up mana for yet. Maybe what we'll do... So Adeline is going to take up both of our pips if we do so. Maybe the move is actually to go Cathar Commando into Lossernach to essentially generate as much onboard presence as we can. So we have only 2 white pips that we can use. So we could either do... We could do Mangara as well, but we don't really need the card draw at the moment. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do Cathar Commando, tapping one of the whites. And then we're going to do a Lossernach Captain. So that will cost us 2 mana. So we're going to go ahead and just tap our Plains and the Urza Saga for that. So we have 2 colorless left to play with here. And I think because we're out of white pips to use, I think we'll just tap the Ancient Tomb to then basically just clamp our Soul's Attendant to draw 2 more cards to see if we can draw into a land, knowing that we will have to discard one of them. So let's see. So that cost, we still have 1 colorless floating, and I don't think we can do anything with that. So with that, I think we'll go to end step, and I think we'll just discard the... So we have 2 protection pieces here. Mangara and Coat of Arms and Greymon are good finishers. Soul Warden is some good life gain, Lapse of Certainty. So I think what we actually want to do is discard... I think we just want to discard Mangara, because I think we just don't need the card draw yet, although she might be good to hang on to for later. I think we don't need 2 protection pieces. Actually, I'm going to discard the Galadriel's Dismissal, and then we will go next. So then we'll have 2 upkeep triggers. Lossernach Captain will help us create a human soldier on upkeep, and then we will then have a Herald's Horn trigger to then reveal the top. It is a Soul Ring. We will not draw that for our turn here, but we will put that back. All right, so we have a couple of different options. So no land drops still, however, so Urza Saga's on chapter 2, so I'm going to tap this to cast the Soul Ring first. So we've got lots of ramp going on here, but still only 2 white pips. And with the Lossernach on the field, I think now is the time to run out Adeline with the plan to Alpha Strike with something like a Coat of Arms or Greymon's or Intrepid Adversary next turn. So here we're going to play an Adeline, which will take up our 2 white pips. We'll go to combat, and we'll send in the Cathar Commando, and we're going to assume that... So that will then make Adeline make 3 1/1 white humans, and for the sake of this test, we're going to assume that only, let's say, 2 of them survive. We'll assume that our opponents have some blockers up. Actually, no, let's assume that 1. We'll just be conservative with it. 1 human survives this combat. Let's see, and they enter tapped and attacking. So we attacked with Cathar Commando, and then assuming that Cathar Commando is blocked, we're going to tap 1 Ancient Tomb mana to then... Oh, the question is actually... So I was... Yeah, so I think we will... tap the Ancient Tomb to then sack Cathar Commando to blow up an artifact or enchantment. The reason why I was hesitant there is because technically we would lose the extra floating mana from Ancient Tomb for a potential clamp in second main phase. But I think, oh, we do have the Soul Ring. We have the Soul Ring, everybody. Okay, we're good. So, all right, so we have 2 colorless mana to play with here. I think we're still going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to tap the Soul Ring then to then clamp the token, the tapped token, draw us 2 more cards, really just trying to go through our deck here. And we did draw a land. So then what we do is we go to end step, and we're probably going to discard, I think, Mangara this time, because we're not really looking to draw more cards. And we also need to discard... Oh, and then I think I'll play the Kybera Plateau as land for turn, so we don't have to discard that while we're still in second main phase. So on end step, on cleanup step, we'll just discard the Mangara and go next. So turn 7, we're going to go ahead. So Urza Saga will trigger. And then I'm sorry, we have 2 upkeep triggers. So first of all, the Lesser Nut Captain will make another human soldier, and then this Plains that we just drew would have been part of the Herald's Horn trigger, but we will not draw that because it is not a human creature card. All right, so that leaves us with Urza Saga triggering after draw step. So unfortunately, we already have Soul Ring and Skull Clamp on the field. So I think what we can do, and let's actually see if I can see if we have any more 1-drop artifact. Oh, we can search for Esper Sentinel. Okay, Esper Sentinel. Let me just take a peek at our deck list here. We also have Expedition Map, but we already have Ancient Tomb on the battlefield. So I think Esper Sentinel is the way to go. Yeah. And then, so that will increase our human count by 1, which is awesome. And then Urza Saga will go away. So we have 1 floating because we tapped Urza Saga in response to the trigger. So we don't lose that mana for the turn. Now, what we can do, and I think what I want to do is actually play both Greymans and Intrepid Adversary if we have the mana here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then Greyman will cost 2 white pips. Or sorry, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from our floating, 7, 8. So I think we can play Greyman for 2. That knocks us down to 6 remaining mana. And then we're going to play Intrepid Adversary. Unfortunately, we can't use the cost reduction on the kicker triggers. But that is okay. I think I haven't played a land yet, though, for this turn. So I think we actually play the Plains this turn. So that will give us 8 mana available. So I think so Intrepid Adversary will be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it will cost 1. So that leaves us 5 remaining. So we'll kick it twice. So this will be a 5-3, and Greyman of Ascent Stalwart will enter. So that will give, so essentially, Intrepid Adversary will give our creatures +2/+2 because we kicked it twice. And then the Greyman will give everything an additional +2/+2. So now we have, this guy has Summoning Sick. We have a 5/5, a 7/5, oh my goodness, star for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So a 11/8, I believe, on Adeline. Esper Sentinel is a 5/5, and then we have a 7/5, and then wait, did I do that right? Yeah, 7/5, and then this is a 5/6. So bring some dice if you're going to play this deck, folks. So now we can basically swing out with our giant board. Adeline will create 3 more soldiers or 3 more humans when we do, and then that will trigger our Lesser Nut Captain to then tap down creatures on our opponent's board so that we can get in for more damage. So here, and then next turn, let's say that any of our buffers were blown up. We have Coat of Arms in hand. We also have a lot of interaction in Teferi's Protection and Lapse of Certainty. We have a survival card with Soul Warden, and then if we really want to expand our board state by a ton next turn, we would play Horn of Gondor. So let's just see what the next 3 cards were. There's all of our lands and our ramp. So I would consider that at least a lethal for 1 person by turn 7 if our board hasn't been dealt with. All right, we'll try one more Goldfish here. So starting off the bat, we have 4 lands with a piece of ramp, a nice 1-drop. I love having Novice Inspector in hand, and then a Ranger of Eos to help us draw or tutor up some more cards. So, all right, I think we'll go ahead and play a Scavenger, or I'm sorry, a Plains here for turn 1. But first we have to draw a card. So we're going to play a Plains. Then we're going to go ahead and play our Novice Inspector and create a clue token that we can use to draw cards later. By the way, love this clue token art from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. We're going to go next to turn 2. Then we're going to go ahead and I think we probably want to play a Scavenger Grounds because we want to probably sacrifice it to Lotus Field next turn, and I'd rather have a Plains waiting in my hand to play after the Lotus Field. So we're going to tap for 2, and we're going to go ahead and play our Sand Scout here. So when it ETBs, if an opponent controls more lands than you, search your library for a desert card, put it on a battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So what we're going to do is, well, the unfortunate thing is normally I would do like the Arid Archway, bounce land. Here, let's just toot this up so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This Arid Archway is a desert, and you can bounce land back to your hand. However, with Lotus Field, well, actually, that's not a bad play because that will help us draw a land. We don't have to play Lotus Field next turn. We can just play a Plains next turn. So I think what we're going to do is that. So we're going to search up Arid Archway. That will enter tapped, and we're going to go ahead and return this Scavenger Grounds to our hand. All right, not bad. We've got 2 creatures here. We're ready to defend with Novice Inspector, and then once Adeline comes out, we can basically send in Novice Inspector for the 3 token triggers. All right, so next turn here, we have a Herald's Horn, which I would like to run out, but that would leave us with 1 mana remaining, which is kind of an awkward spot to be in. So I think what we'll actually do is perhaps play out our Ranger of Eos here, because Ranger of Eos can search us up Esper Sentinel, and I think it's better to be on curve, considering that both will give us card advantage at this point in time. So let's go for Plains, and then we're going to pay 4 for a Ranger of Eos. And so when this ETBs, we will search for 2 creature cards with CMC 1 or less, reveal them, put them into your hand. So I think I'm actually going to maybe, so we could grab a Weathered Wayfarer as well. We could grab Thraben Inspector, Soul Warden, or Soul's Attendant. I think we're going to go ahead and search up for Esper Sentinel. And then we're going to search up a, do we want to continue to ramp with Weathered Wayfarer? I think we might actually want a Soul Warden, because we're just going to assume that our opponents have some aggro bullshit going on. So those will be tapped. Ranger of Eos will enter. We'll search up those cards, and then we will go to turn 4 here. All right, so here's where things will start to get pretty spicy. So we could play our Lotus Field. However, what I'd like to do is play Scavenger Grounds and tap it for Soul Rings. That will actually put us up more mana. So let's do that. Let's do our Scavenger Grounds into a Soul Ring. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana at our disposal here with only 2 white pips. So I think what we want to do then is go, we definitely want Esper Sentinel on the field, and in order to draw some more cards. The question is, do we want to play Herald's Horn or Heliod's Pilgrim? Heliod's Pilgrim will get us only Darksteel Mutation from the deck, which is a nice removal piece. However, Herald's Horn will help us to draw more cards and make our stuff more cheap. And so Soul Warden won't be affected by the Herald's Horn cost reduction, so I'm not in a big hurry to play out Herald's Horn, but I think what we want to do, so this will really just depend on what our opponents have for a board state. I'm going to always assume that, I'm just going to assume that we're fine for now. We're going to run out the Herald's Horn. using, let's see, 1, 2. So we have 1 colorless and 1 white left, right? Did I do that right? So we tapped Esper Sentinel. This was for the Soul Ring. And we tapped 1, 2, yeah, 3. So I think we have, right? Did I do that right? Scavenger Grounds, tap that for the Soul Ring. Then we tap the Plains for the Esper Sentinel. Now we're tapping the Arid Archway and the Soul Ring with 1 colorless remaining for Herald's Horn. And we have 1 more pip to play with, so we'll run out the Soul Warden. Okay, so we're going to assume that Esper Sentinel draws us 1 card during our opponent's turn, so that will be a Tocacious Welcome. And then we are going to then have our Herald's Horn trigger on upkeep, and we will draw our Greymond Avastin Stalwart, and then we'll actually draw our card for next turn. All right, so now let's tap. Let's tap and float a Scavenger Ground, so a waste. Then we're going to send this to the graveyard. Then we're going to tap a Plains and send that to the graveyard because we're going to play Lotus Field, which will enter tapped. So let's see. So we have 1 colorless, 1 white, so 2 mana up. So I think at this point, we really just want to run out Adeline and also buff up our creatures. So at this point, I have Angel of Glory's Rise in our hand, so we can really send in as many creatures as we want. So I think that's, just keep that in the back of your head when you have one of these big reanimations effects in your hand. All right, so if we play Tocacious Welcome, though, and then Adeline, we automatically get the card draw, although we're not really hurting for it. So I think what we want to do is probably, because we don't have any protection in our hand, maybe we just run out as many buff style effects as we can. So the problem is we only have 2 white pips to play with, and I've noticed that this deck tends to struggle with generating white pips, even though it is monocolored. So next turn we'll have more white pips to play with. So if we only have 2 white pips, so we have a total of 2 floating here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I think we'll use the white pips for Adeline, and then we'll also play in Urza's Incubator with the rest of our colorless mana, which I think is what we want to be doing here. Or alternatively, I could just play the Heliod's Pilgrim. I think we definitely want to just get more aggro here with Adeline on the field, and then we'll play in Urza's Incubator. So that will actually, yeah, it won't matter because we won't be able to use the rest of the mana either way if Adeline's cost is reduced, because again, we only have those 2 white pips to play with. So, all right, so that's going to tap all of our stuff. We're going to Suicide in the Novice Inspector during combat, and we will create the 3 human tokens. Now at this point, Now at this point, our opponents are going to really need a board wipe or else they're in huge trouble. So then next turn, we would then untap. We would have an upkeep trigger, but that would not matter with Herald's Horn because Tithe is not a human. And then at this point, I think what we would want to do is really, let's see what's in our graveyard here. We actually don't have many in the graveyard. But at this point, what we would want to do is then just buff up as much stuff as we can, play our Tocacious Welcome, and then probably a Greymond Avastin Stalwart. Although if we needed to really remove a threat, we would play Heliod's Pilgrim and then play Darksteel Mutation off of that. So that would use up our Lotus Field pips, and then a Soul Ring. So we would have 3 mana left to play with our humans costing 2 less, or 3 less actually. And then we would actually have the mana to play Heliod's Pilgrim as well. So I would consider that with the Greymond buff, granting our creatures first strike and our choice of one of the 2 abilities. Not necessarily lethal, because I think everything would have +3/+3. But we still have our Clue here to help us draw cards. We have Esper Sentinel, which I assumed didn't draw a card last round. Tocacious Welcome to then start helping us draw more cards. And so let's just see what the rest of our, so we have a little bit of stack interaction here, which we would have drawn into, and then an additional MDFC in particular. Emeria can be cast for its front side, which would give all of our creatures indestructible until our next turn. So I would consider that a successful Goldfish as well. Let's try one one more here because I think we're kind of ripping through these pretty quickly. All right, so here we've got 2 lands. We've got a path which you can use as emergency ramp, a Cathar Commando, Mirror Entity, Scholar of New Horizons, so a good piece. We actually have a path potentially to more lands here with Scholar of New Horizons, so I think we'll actually go ahead and keep this. All right, perfect. So I think what I'm actually going to do is just play this Kabira Plateau tapped because we need that tempo for later. We're going to go next. Then we're going to play our plains here. We'll play a Scholar of New Horizons, which will be a 2/2. We can ramp a land out on turn 3 here. Then we're going to activate Scholar, player and land. We're going to search for a plains, and that will enter. We're going to assume that it actually enters tapped. This time we want the tapped mode here. All right, so we have 3 mana to play with. So I think this would seem really silly to path our own Scholar once its value has been used up. But so let's just think this out. So if we were to theoretically path our own creature that we no longer need, we would be giving up the Adeline trigger because we need a creature to attack for that. However, that would put us at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have 6 mana for next turn. So I don't think that's quite worth it yet. So we're just going to hold on to the path to exile. So with our 3 mana here, I think what I want to do... So next turn we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that would make for a good Mirror Entity Cathar Commando turn, or Coat of Arms. So, or we could do Adeline, or do I do Adeline this turn? Do I do Adeline this turn to get her out on the field? Let's see. We want to get the trigger right away, but then I could easily cast Mirror Entity and Cathar Commando next turn. But it wouldn't be bad to play a Ranger of Eos and then a Path next turn as well. So what I want to do... I don't want to show our Mirror Entity yet because that's a greater risk to be removed. So I think the move here is to actually just play Adeline. We won't get the humans here, but, big sad for that one. All right, so we'll play our 5th land here. So we have 5 mana to work with. We can play a Ranger, and then I'm thinking we actually just play a Weathered Wayfarer to help us search up an Ancient Tomb. Now, this would also depend on what our opponents have. So if they have a scary creature, I'd probably play Path. We're going to assume that we have to do that, actually. So let's go Ranger of Eos, which will search us up Esper Sentinel, and then we can also search up a Soul Sister. Create token, my bad. Soul Warden. All right, then, so that's 4 of our mana here, and I'm going to assume that we have to use this. So we're going to use up our 5th mana on our opponent's turns, and then we're going to send in Scholar. He will probably die to some opponent's blocker, and we will create 3 1/1s. So just demonstrating the power of creating 3 1/1s here by turn 4 is pretty great with Adeline. All right, so then we're going to go next. Then we can essentially spam out a bunch of creatures, or we could just Coat of Arms right now. So I think what we want to do is actually just play out Tocacious Welcome and then 2 of our 1-drops. Now... Here's where you probably would want to assume that there's a board wipe somewhere in your near future. Excuse me. And so maybe the move here is actually to just cast Tocacious Welcome for 3. And then we probably want to play, let's see, the question is, do we want to use up our 2 mana for Cathar Commando? I think we just want to run out Cathar Commando, assuming that our opponents have something to destroy with its ability here. So then we'll send in, let's assume that only 2 of our humans survived from last turn. We'll send in another one of our humans as a suicide, and then we will create 3 more humans. Creating humans here, and we'll just assume that actually only 1 survives that combat. Then we'll go to next turn here. So turn 6, we've got just a ton of creatures. So I think at this point in time, oh, and we would draw a card off of the Tokacious Welcome. So technically, I'm just going to draw our next card that we would have drawn from the start of our turn. So we have Baragon of the Guard, which I actually really like here. We can play Baragon and then perhaps one of our Soul Sisters. And then next turn, if we draw a land, we can play Coat of Arms and another Soul Sister, or probably like Esper Sentinel or something. So let's see. Is that what we want to do here? So we have 5 mana. I think we actually want to give our creatures a little bit of survivability. I'm just wondering if I should. Yeah, I think we play Baragon and then we play our. Maybe we actually just hold back. So depending on if we are sniffing out a board wipe, I would just play Baragon, but maybe we'll just kind of go full balls to the wall here, and we'll just play an Esper Sentinel, so that would use up all of our 5 mana. We're going to Suicide in a Human, and that will create 3 more humans with Adeline when we attack during combat. And we're going to, maybe we just assume that we actually have to sack the Cathar Commando to destroy something. That's probably a better idea. We'll actually assume we have to do that, just trying to be as defensive as possible. And then Adeline will make 3 more humans. We'll assume that only 1 human survives that combat. So basically, for the turn, we will then draw a card off of Tokacious Welcome with those entering. And then I think so we'll go next turn. And now is when we can really crank up the heat. Unfortunately, I did not draw another land. But with Baragon on the field, now what we can do is we can play Soul's Attendant. And that would draw a card off of Tokacious Welcome, and I was hoping to draw a land there, but so Baragon will give all of our humans +1/+1 and Vigilance, and then we'll play Esper Sentinel, Knight of the White Orchid, and Soul Warden to give all of our creatures +4/+4 and Vigilance, which is pretty great. I forgot to put Cathar Commando in the graveyard from last turn. So yeah, so that's pretty much how the deck works. And you know, if one of our Baragon was removed, we would have Coat of Arms in hand, we have Moonshaker Cavalry in hand, or if all of our stuff was board wiped, let's say all of this went to the graveyard. Holy crap, everybody, we've been board wiped. We still have Ascend from Avernus in our hand. So yeah, that is another successful Goldfishing attempt by turn 7. So that is my Adeline mono white human tribal deck. Hopefully you guys got an idea of what it is capable of. I would put this deck probably along the lines of like a power 7 or 8, considering we only have I think 2 or 3 pieces of stack interaction in white. I'd probably consider this more like a 7, probably not an 8, because we're not running any like unusual combos or anything like that. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like on it and subscribe and all that fun stuff. And if you want to catch the deck tech for this deck, I'll have the link to that deck down in the description, and you can check that out on my other page. So with that out of the way, that is the video, guys. Thank you all for watching once again, and hopefully I will see you all in the next one.